You are 20 feet underground, and you can hardly breathe. It is the summer of AD 64, and the city of Rome is burning. You can smell the ash filtering down through the dirt ceiling of the catacombs. You can hear the muffled shouts of the Praetorian Guard marching on the cobblestones above. You are shivering, not from the cold of the damp earth, but from sheer terror, because you know the Emperor Nero is looking for a scapegoat for this fire, and you know his finger is pointing straight at you and the few dozen believers huddled in the dark around you. In your trembling hands, you are holding a worn piece of parchment. It is a copy of a letter sent to your church just a few years earlier by a tent maker named Paul. You stare at a specific sentence written on that page. In the flickering light of a single oil lamp, you read the words, and they feel like a cruel joke. The words promise you that something good is happening, but your city is burning. Your friends are being arrested. Your life is over. We are going to come back to this terrifying moment in the dirt. We are going to find out exactly what sentence was written on that parchment and how it saved this woman's sanity. But not yet. First, we need to look at what you have probably been told that verse means. If you grew up in a modern church, you know the verse I'm talking about. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. It is printed on coffee mugs. It is stitched into throw pillows. It is written inside greeting cards handed to people in hospital waiting rooms. Here is what most people miss when they read that verse today. We have taken a blood-soaked, battle-tested promise forged in the fires of the first century and turned it into a cheap bandage. When a modern preacher stands on a stage with laser lights and promises you that your job loss, your broken car, or your bad day is just a setup for a financial blessing, they are using this verse. But look at the reality of the people who first heard it. Look at the people who actually received this letter. This is not a promise of unexpected wealth. This is not a guarantee of physical safety. This is not a magic shield against pain. This is something far heavier, far deeper, and far more dangerous than earthly comfort. To understand what Paul actually meant when he picked up his quill to write Romans 8:28, we have to strip away 2,000 years of comfortable Western misunderstanding. We have to look closely at two specific words he wrote in the original Greek. Two words that change absolutely everything. Imagine standing on the stone docks of Corinth in the first century. The air smells of salt and rotting fish. A woman steps onto the wooden deck of a heavily loaded cargo ship. Her name is Phoebe. She is a wealthy businesswoman, a deaconess from the nearby port of Sentry, and she is carrying something more valuable than all the gold in the Roman Empire. Hidden in her heavy woolen cloak is a single scroll of parchment. It is the letter to the Romans. She is about to carry this fragile scroll across pirate-infested waters. She will walk dirt roads crawling with bandits all the way to the heart of the empire. She is risking her life for one simple reason. The believers in Rome are terrified, and they desperately need the lifeline written on those pages. Here is the part nobody tells you about that journey. When Phoebe finally unrolls that scroll in a crowded, dimly lit house church in Rome, she does not read it in English. She reads it in the common Greek of the first century. When she gets to the 8th chapter and she reads the words we translate as works together, she says the Greek word synergei. This is where we get our modern word, synergy. It is the image of a master craftsman actively binding different, contrasting threads together to make a single fabric. Listen to this carefully. Paul is not saying the tragedy itself is good. He is not saying the sickness is good. He is not saying the brutal fire burning your city is good. He is saying the God of the universe is actively standing in the ash, taking the darkest, most agonizing parts of your life and aggressively pulling them into something else. But what exactly is he building? What does the word good actually mean? Stay with me, because this changes everything. In the original Greek, the word for good in this verse is agathon. If you look up the word good in a modern dictionary today, you will see definitions entirely centered on your personal comfort. a good day, a good meal, a good medical report, a good bank account. We have conditioned ourselves to believe that if God is doing something good, it means our earthly lives will get easier. But in Paul's Greek mind, agathon does not mean earthly comfort. It means ultimate, eternal, spiritual perfection. It means a terrifying, glorious stripping away of anything that does not look like heaven. Phoebe knew this. Paul knew this. The terrified Roman believers hiding in the dirt knew this. The good God is working toward is not your physical safety. It is something else entirely. And to find out exactly what it is, we only have to read the very next sentence Paul wrote. Before we go any further into the original language, I want to ask you something. If you are tired of shallow, sugar-coated theology that falls apart the second real tragedy hits your life, and you want to actually understand the grit and the depth of the Bible, consider subscribing to the channel. We do not do fluff here, we just look at the text. Now, let's look at the man who actually wrote Romans chapter 8. Paul of Tarsus is sitting in a room in Corinth. He is an aging man. If he takes off his outer cloak, you will see a back completely covered in thick, jagged scars. He has been whipped 39 times on 5 separate occasions. He has been beaten with Roman rods. He has survived 3 shipwrecks, treading water in the freezing, pitch-black Mediterranean Sea for a day and a night. He has been starved, stoned, and left for dead. When Paul wrote that God works all things together for good, he was not writing from a comfortable palace. He was writing from a place of profound, continuous physical suffering. And the people he was writing to understood exactly what that meant. Think about a woman named Priscilla. She and her husband Aquila were Jewish tent makers living in Rome. A few years before Paul wrote this letter, the Emperor Claudius issued an edict. Overnight, all Jews were violently expelled from the capital city. Imagine waking up tomorrow and being told by armed guards that you have to leave your home, your business, your friends, and your security. You have 24 hours. You take only what you can carry. Priscilla lost everything. And this is where it gets remarkable. When Priscilla and the other Roman believers eventually returned, and they gathered in the dark to hear Phoebe read Paul's letter, they did not stop at verse 28. That is our modern mistake. We rip verse 28 out of the Bible, paste it onto a greeting card, and completely ignore verse 29. You cannot understand verse 28 without verse 29. Listen to what comes next. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. There is another Greek word here, symorphos. It means to be pressed into an exact mold. It is the image of a blacksmith taking a piece of raw iron, throwing it into a blinding fire, and beating it with a heavy hammer until it takes the exact shape the blacksmith desires. To be conformed to the identical likeness of Jesus Christ. This is the great shift. This is the truth that changes everything about your worst day. Think about what it actually means to be pressed into the exact image of Jesus Christ. Look at his life. Look at the cross. If the ultimate, eternal good God is working toward is making you look exactly like his Son, then you have to accept a terrifying reality. To look like Jesus, you must understand sorrow. To look like Jesus, you must know what it is like to be betrayed, to be misunderstood, to weep in the dark, and to bleed. When you understand this, the prosperity theology we hear so often today completely shatters. Now watch what happens next. Just a few years after Paul sent this letter to the Roman believers, the Emperor Nero set his eyes on them. We do not just know this from the Bible. We know this from a Roman senator and historian named Tacitus. He was not a believer. He actually hated Christians. But in his historical records, Tacitus describes exactly what happened to the men and women who first unrolled Paul's letter. Tacitus writes that Nero needed a scapegoat for the great fire of Rome. He chose the Christians. He ordered them to be arrested. He had them sewn into the skins of wild animals and torn apart by dogs. He had them nailed to rough wooden crosses. He had them covered in pitch, tied to poles, and set on fire to serve as human torches, lighting up his imperial gardens at night. These were the exact people Paul was writing to. And you have to ask yourself a deeply uncomfortable question. Did Romans chapter 8 verse 28 fail these people? Did the promise expire the moment the Roman soldiers kicked in their doors? If you define the word good as physical safety, then yes, God failed them. The promise was a lie. But if you define the word good the way Paul defined it, the way the early church understood it, as being crushed and hammered into the eternal, indestructible image of Jesus Christ, then the promise did exactly what it was supposed to do. The tragedy did not mean God had abandoned them. It meant the forge was hot. The fire did not destroy them, it completed them. When you face the worst moments of your life, the enemy wants you to look at your pain and conclude that God is punishing you, or worse, that he has simply stopped paying attention. But Paul is looking at you across 2,000 years of history and telling you that the hammer strikes are proof that the blacksmith is holding you right now. Let's go back to the dark, suffocating dirt of the Roman catacombs in the summer of 64 AD. The woman is still holding the parchment. The city is still burning above her. But now she reads the rest of the sentence. She reads verse 29. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. Suddenly, the promise makes sense. God is not promising to put out the fire. He is promising that the fire will not be wasted. The crushing weight of this terror, the loss of her home, the fear of the Praetorian Guard, all of these dark realities are being aggressively bound together by a master craftsman to forge her into the indestructible likeness of Jesus. She can survive the empire because the empire cannot stop the forge. If you think this kind of faith died in the 1st century, hold that thought. Fast forward almost 1900 years. It is 1944. Two sisters, Corrie and Betsy ten Boom, have just been shoved into barracks 28 at the Ravensbrück concentration camp. They are imprisoned because they hid Jews from the Nazis. The conditions are horrific. The barracks are designed for 400 women, but they are holding well over 1,000. And worse, the rotting straw beds are completely infested with fleas. Corrie is weeping, but Betsy insists they must thank God for all things. She actually prays aloud and thanks God for the fleas. Corrie thinks her sister has lost her mind. There is no reality where blood-sucking parasites in a Nazi death camp are a good thing. But it gets stranger. Months go by. The sisters are miraculously able to hold Bible studies in the center of the barracks every single night. The guards never stop them. The guards never even walk through the door. It is absolute freedom in the middle of hell. It was not until much later that Corrie discovered why the guards refused to open the doors of Barracks 28. It was the fleas. The fleas were the exact instrument God was using to keep the guards away so the gospel could be preached. The fleas were not comfortable. They were agonizing. But they were agathon. They were the exact tool God used to protect them and forge the women of that camp into the image of Christ. As we close, I want you to walk away with 3 very clear truths about Romans 8:28. First, the ultimate good God is working toward in your life is not a better house, a better job, or a stress-free existence. The ultimate good is perfectly reflecting the image of His Son, Jesus Christ. That is the factual reality of the text. Second, this means that your current suffering, the grief, the betrayal, the sickness, the waiting, is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is the raw material He is actively using in the forge. He is not wasting a single second of your pain. And finally, I want you to hear this at a gut level. You might feel like you are being crushed right now. You might feel like the hammer is striking you over and over again, and you cannot take one more hit. Do not look at the hammer. Look at the hands holding the hammer. Those hands are scarred. Those hands were pierced on a Roman cross for you. The blacksmith forging you is the exact same Savior who died for you. He will not strike you one time more than is absolutely necessary to make you indestructible. Which part of Romans chapter 8 changes how you view your current struggle? Tell me in the comments below. I read as many as I can. Until next time, keep your eyes on the text.